So this tutorial was guest filmed by my brother, which means it's a little longer and more in-depth than my usual tutorials. It's narrated mostly by my brother with a little bit from me and even a little help from Luke.
R2! Huh? Oh, you be more careful. R2. That way. Oh, hello. Today we are going to be making Luke Skywalker's X-Wing helmet. Okay, now the first thing you're going to need are 3 basic materials. 1. Duct tape. Tinfoil. And a sphere. In this case, I have chosen this globe, because it's just slightly bigger than my head. Now what I'm going to do is take this tinfoil here, wrap this all around in tinfoil, and then take the duct tape and wrap it in duct tape, because I don't have couldn't find a template for Luke's helmet. So I'm going to just kind of wing it, freestyle it, and hopefully it'll come out okay. Okay, now that you have your sphere covered completely within tinfoil, you need to cover it in duct tape. Now, by this point, it should look something sort of like the Death Star. And what we're going to do is we need to draw some lines around it. What I'm going to do is take this rope here, wrap it around it once here, once across there, and just kind of eyeball it as best I can. And I'm going to draw some lines with a Sharpie, and then I'm going to slit it down and cut it open. Alright, now as you can see, I have applied the string, and now I will mark it with my marker. Now, so you might want to label them like...
1, 2, 3, and 4.
Because one's going to connect to 2, and 2's going to connect to 3, and so on. Now, as you can see, I have marked it with the proper lines. I'm going to take my scalpel here, better known as an exacto knife, and just slit each line so it can come apart. Don't have to be perfect, because you're going to use all 4 parts anyways. But yeah, just go to town. And now that you have your wonderful lines here, you may remove the tape.
So this part takes quite a while. Basically what you want to do is just take the blade of your exacto knife and just carefully peel it under those slits that you made, the long slits. You just want to carefully take your exacto knife and keep going under it, peeling off a little bit more each time.
So you just want to keep going until you have about 4 pieces like this. Now, by this point, you should have 4 of these. What we need to do is make them lie flat.
So to get the pieces to lie flat, he cut down the middle on all 4 sides far enough until it flattened out, and then he used those as templates and laid them onto some EVA foam, taped them down, traced around them, and then he removed the templates and cut the pieces out of the foam with an exacto knife. So once he had the pieces cut out from the foam, he glued those 4 flattening cuts back together with some contact cement. Normally you could just make it easy and use hot glue for this, but he's going to be heating this up with a heat gun in a little bit, so he didn't want to melt the hot glue when he did. So he uses contact cement instead of hot glue here. And then you can either let the contact cement air dry, or you can speed up the process by holding a hair dryer or a heat gun toward it. And once you've done that, you just want to very carefully press your edges together, trying to make them as neat as possible. And to do that with all 4 of your pieces.
Okay, now that we have all these 4 pieces here, the next step is going to be just gluing all 4 pieces together, just like we did with the seams here.
And so then here it is, once all 4 of the pieces are glued back together, it kind of looks like a basketball. So next just cut a thin strip of foam at a very slight angle. So then you'll just go ahead and contact cement that up, heat it up, and glue it onto the ball. And this is actually going to be just temporary, it's going to be removed later on, but you'll have to do it for now. And so then you'll do the same thing with the second strip, and then you just want to take a pen and mark where the 2 strips lie on the helmet.
Okay, next step. As you can see, I've covered this here in some more tinfoil and duct tape, just the side of it. What I'm going to do is take a Sharpie. I'm going to look at my Luke helmet here as a reference. I'm just going to try and draw a line as best I can. Okay, so this is what I've wound up with. Now, this isn't incredibly round, so instead of cutting it like I normally would, I'm just going to try and smooth this out.
So once he'd flattened that out, he just traced it onto a piece of EVA foam and cut it out with an exacto knife, just like the other pieces. So he ended up cutting out 2 of those pieces, and he ended up putting a little slit in the middle that he's going to glue back together later like he did for the other pieces to help round it out. So then you'll be taking both of those pieces and you'll be gluing them one on top of the other, once again using the contact cement. So here it is once the 2 layers are glued together, and then he's just going to go around all of the edges with a Dremel. Just wants to smooth them down a little bit, kind of angle them off, but a smooth rounded angle. So then he glued that double thick piece to the side of the helmet next to one of those strips. And then he needs to take off that thin strip, so he just heated it up with the heat gun and then popped the piece off. So then he did the same thing for the other side of the helmet, gluing a double thick piece on and removing the thin strip. And so then he just took one of the thin strips that he removed and used it as a template to make 2 new strips that were in the exact same shape as the removed strips, but this time you want the strips to be 2 inches wide, and those will eventually fit into the 2 sides of the helmet. But before you glue the 2 strips on, you want to draw out your helmet opening on the bottom and front of the helmet. My brother just freehanded this, so here it is once the opening is cut so the head can fit in and you can see out the front of it. And then you want to glue the 2-inch strips onto the helmet. They start at the front of the opening and go all the way down to the bottom on the back side.
Next thing we're going to do is to put up the top piece over here. I've measured this and it's roughly about 2.5 inches. Front and bottom, so that's good. And it's roughly 26 inches.
So then he went ahead and marked out a piece of EVA foam 26 inches long and 2.5 inches wide, and then he cut it out with an exacto knife. And if possible, when you're cutting this, you want to bevel the edges so it will sit in the groove on the helmet better. And so here you can see it sits nicely in the groove once he's got it cut out. And so then on the front, he cut out a little square of foam and stuck that right in the open hole. Then he took some dry decks and he put a ton of this stuff on all the seam lines to smooth them out nicely. He uses his finger to smooth everything evenly. The stuff goes on pink and then it dries white, so here you can see it's dried white. Then he took a couple pieces of 3mm craft foam and cut out several rectangles and glued them onto the front of the helmet crest to give it dimension. Then he cut a rectangle from EVA foam and glued that onto the lower half of each side of the helmet. He cut 2 of those. And then he took a drill and drilled 6 holes in each piece, 3 along the top and 3 along the bottom. You'll do this on each side of the helmet. So then you just want to take some plain Elmer's glue and coat the entire helmet with it. You'll want to give it 3 coats in all. And then you'll want to give it 4 coats of what is called plastidip. So then once the 4 coats of plastidip were dry, he painted the helmet white and then added all the red, yellow, and black details. And then he cut a piece of craft foam to use as a chin strap. It's 3mm craft foam. And he cut a few slits in it and ran a ribbon through it, and then glued the 2 sides of the ribbon onto the top sides of the helmet on the insides, and that was his chin strap. And so here is the finished helmet. His was still a little too big for his head, so you can see that he also glued some of the squishy green foam inside for comfort and a better fit. If you choose to do that, you can also paint the foam so it doesn't show from the outside the way his does.